The Hive is an organization, or an action project rather, from ideas that works in the community to bring people together, sometimes from ideas chapters, sometimes from other environmental organizations. We come out, we take action having to do with something in energy, water, food, waste, or ecology. And today was our water project.
About almost 10 feet out from the shoreline, we're going to dig out and rebuild the shoreline because it's so steep that water moves too fast through it and can actually inhibit plants from growing. And then we'll lay down weed fabric to prevent, any of the weeds from coming in and put plants in at the end.
Water running off from a community, over concrete, over the ground of a housing development, will eventually wind up into a pond like this. And it can contain a lot of different pollutants, a lot of fertilizer runoff, and it can really poison the ecosystem. It can create a terrible algae bloom that'll cause all different kinds of problems and even kill wildlife. Plus, it doesn't look very nice, so people spend a lot of money on using herbicides to try to control it. So the nice thing is that we can fix that. By putting in the right plants, access to water, this pond can transform into a thriving habitat, where you have a lot of animals that use this area as a refuge.
What we did here is we tied the cinder blocks together with some pieces of twine, and then we stuck the plants through the cinder blocks, kind of secured it with another piece of twine in the roots to the twine that we wrapped around the cinder blocks. And now we're just gonna go grab some manpower to help us drop it over into the lake.
Because I'm just trying to make sure they stand up even, so that they don't fall over and just drown the plants.
Everything's going great. We're now laying the foundation with these aquatic plants. We're going to come back and actually do mulching with some of these pine needles, and hopefully we'll have a really nice established riparian buffer here by the end of the day.
Over at the upland area, we used a couple of trees that are generally okay whenever it is inundated with water. If the water ever were to rise up this high in a large storm event, this is sand cordgrass right down here. So these ones are going to do better in that drier period of time, which is most of the year. Then down, as we come closer to the water, we start to find our transitional species. And by transitional, I mean ones that can be slightly in the water at any point in time, whether or not it's just a seasonal thing. So that includes we would sometimes call it just aquatics. Duck potato, lizard's tail. Down here, I have blue flag iris right at the pond edge. And so these marginal species are very important for keeping off weedy species at the shoreline, as well as stabilizing it.
This grass species here, it's called torpedo grass. Grows very, very quickly, tries to take over what's called the littoral zone within these ponds. And it's very versatile. It can grow in areas without a lot of water and areas that are almost submerged in water. So oftentimes what this will do is take over one of these areas and won't allow for other native species to come in and thrive and have a diverse area to absorb a lot of the high nutrient that runs off into this pond.
And then right when we get into the water, we begin to get some more aquatic species that are kind of ground cover like. And there's only so many that live in these spots. So being right next to the water, in the water, is kind of a hard place to live. Why the diversity of the species is so important is that it does provide either habitat or a food source for some species. So yeah, we do have an example of a bird feeder here. We got the hoon holly tree, and that has some seeds on it, some berries that the birds can eat. And one other great aspect about the bacopa that I showed you earlier is that it's one of the life cycles of a butterfly will use that plant. So by having it there, you're guaranteed for the residents to be able to see pretty butterflies flying around.
This pond was man-made, and honestly, it was just kind of a cesspool for sediment and runoff. And now that we've planted these plants here, this might be able to turn into more of a thriving ecosystem.
The grasses are really great for things like dragonflies. Dragonflies, of course, fly around eating nuisance pests, so they will literally coast around the pond, settling on top of these branches, and just sitting here like guard dogs, protecting your pond and protect your neighbor against naughty little nuisance insects, like mosquitoes, if you will.
It's actually getting much nicer, right? Got the beginning of an established shoreline here that's going to clean the water as it comes in. So it's a really great collaborative effort of us coming together to really build out this pond and help out water quality in the state of Florida.
So A habitat that has just grass sloping down into the water isn't going to be a very healthy one, because native wildlife doesn't have a place to complete their life cycle. Because they don't have the proper plants to lay their eggs, to find food when they're young, and for them to go from a baby animal all the way through its life cycle to a reproducing adult. So by planting native shoreline and having native plants around, it's a very simple thing that you can do that can make a tremendous difference to improving biodiversity in your area.